Casual Gaming Dad here, and well, I wanted to make a video talking about Diablo 4 Season 1, and after the patch notes dropped yesterday, and there's been a lot of big content creators really giving their opinions and thoughts, and while I'm not a big content creator in the slightest, I'm very, very, very teeny tiny small, I did want to add my voice to that overarching message that I do hope Blizzard will take a look at and consider for their feedback and whatnot of this game moving forward. So I'm not going to go over the patch notes in their entirety. They're very long, very lengthy, and there's lots of others that are probably more suitable and qualified than me to look over those things in detail. I've just got some gameplay in the background from early on in the game's life cycle for you to watch, so feel free to just listen if that's something you're interested in doing. Otherwise, let's get started. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about what I feel the season looks like and what these patch notes did for each individual class, and then I'm going to just tell you what I'm doing and how I'm handling Season 1. So I'm going to start with the most obvious. I'm going to start with the Druid, which is the class that I will be playing again in Season 1. The Druid, for the most part, is untouched. The main thing that they touched with the Druid that's the most noticeable would be the Grizzly Rage. Now, it gives you Unstoppable for the first 6 seconds as opposed to while active. So that sounds like a really big nerf, and it definitely is. I don't know if this was the best approach for them to take with Grizzly Rage. I know that Grizzly Rage felt a little bit too strong. It felt like something you just absolutely needed to take. And that's not great, especially when you feel like there are other ultimates that you want to try. Some people took Petrify some of the time. Lacerate was pretty much 0.000001% of the time taken. And Cataclysm, actually, I really enjoyed. I liked it when I was leveling up, when I was playing Lightning Storm. The problem was, in the end game, it just wasn't quite good enough. They did buff Cataclysm now, so I may take a second look at it. But to be honest, I'm kind of excited about some of the other changes. They added a new aspect, which seems really cool for Landslide, so it makes Earth builds a little bit better. And I played Earth a lot with the Druid, although I did end with Lightning and Tornado there right at the end. But Lightning Storm mostly. But Tornado I was trying to kill Lilith with, which I not yet haven't sucked nearly enough time into it. But anyways, I digress. If you're playing a Druid this season, you're probably good. And one of the other reasons why I'll tell you you're good, even if you want to use Grizzly Rage, is if you're doing an Earth build, you can use Earthen Bulwark, and I think you'll be just fine in between that and when you have the Unstoppable from Grizzly Rage. Additionally, there is a Malignant Heart from the season that grants you a 40 to 60% chance, so it ranges between the two, where a Grizzly Rage will be activated when you are, I believe it's stunned, when you're crowd controlled, basically. When you're crowd controlled, and you're hit for, I think it's 20% or more of your life in a single hit, then you become Grizzly Rage. It activates Grizzly Rage for 3 seconds, so you basically become unstoppable as long as you have Grizzly Rage upgrade. You have it active, and you have it upgraded to have Unstoppable. So that seems like it kind of... It's like they created a problem and then they gave us a way to solve it, which I don't like that approach, to be honest. But either way, I did try my level 100 Druid on live afterwards, and because of some of the sweeping changes, it did feel a little bit squishier, but it still felt basically just as powerful. And I'll talk more about the squishier part later when I'm talking about general broad things. But so that's the Druid. Let's go next to... Let's talk about the Sorceress. Unfortunately, if you were thinking about playing a Sorcerer, well, it's not good news. The Sorcerer seems to have gotten the short end of the stick with these patch notes. They nerfed some of the stronger things, one of the aspects, as well as one of the powers, and it's discouraging when I see comments of people on videos and whatnot saying how they really wanted to play the sorceress, but now they're feeling very unmotivated to do so. That's a really sad thing to see and hear. And I imagine if they did something similar to the druid, that I'd feel also the same way. So I sympathize for people that are really wanting to play the sorcerer. What I would say, and this is first, let me just actually go back for a second and just say, do not let anything I say in this video discourage you from playing whatever you want to play. However you want to play, whatever class you want to play, I think that's one of the most important takeaways that I can give as someone who's been gaming for a really long time. Play whatever you enjoy. Play what you think is fun, and don't let others sway you into that. Yes, I mean, it feels nice when you play a build that's strong, of course, and it feels good to play. But if it feels good and fun for you to play, then I think that's the most important thing. Something for you to consider. So if this discourages you a bit from playing sorcerer, I don't really blame you. I can't blame you. I can't say that I wouldn't feel the same way. Moving along, let's talk about the barbarian. The barbarian, they fixed some bugs with Hoda, which was by far their best build. Personally, I did not play the Hoda build. I have a level 49 barbarian, and I was playing a weapon masteries build where I was swapping between weapons using Iron Maelstrom. I got inspiration from Wudiho. He's a big content creator. He made the build. He talked about it in a video, and I thought it was really, really cool. So I kind of took the idea and ran with it and made my own kind of version of it. But for the most part, it's the same concept that he applied, where you're using the Iron Maelstrom, you're switching between weapons, you get the bonus from that. And what I liked about it is it didn't rely. The only shot that I was using was Rallying Cry for the Unstoppable, and that was it. I wasn't using it most of the time. I wasn't really dependent on cooldowns, and I noticed that my friend who was playing a Barb was using the Hoda build with the 3 shouts, and he would complain a lot. His cooldowns were down, he would die a lot, and that just didn't seem very fun to me. So I wanted to play the Barb in a different way. So I'm really glad that I did, and it's a lot of fun. It was something that I was actually really considering playing for Season 1. Yeah, so the Barb did get some buffs in that sense. Deathblow got buffed a bit, which is part of that build. So something there to look at, but they're kind of... Barbs are kind of in the middle-ish of the pack. Let's talk about Necromancer next, which got a little bit of quality of life improvement. They did fix some things with Bone Spear and whatnot, but they did give some things back, which is kind of nice, unlike the Sorcerer, where it just really didn't feel like they gave anything back after taking. So it seems that they've made some of the minion builds and whatnot a bit stronger. It's either a unique or an aspect that buffs Bone Storm, which is an ultimate, so that sounds pretty interesting. So Necromancer, it seems that they're moving in the right direction a bit. I'm not that surprised, considering, the Rod Ferguson has stated openly many times how he loves the Necromancer and it's his favorite. So I'm sure it's going to get some love and attention at some point. So that's definitely nice, I think, for Necromancers. But still not enough, but moving in the right direction, right? And last time I'm going to talk about the Rogue. The Rogue probably, in my opinion, feels like it was very strong all around. Great at leveling, great at endgame, strong single target DPS if you wanted to be, strong in groups, really fast, really mobile, and, well, it's basically the same as it was. They didn't really touch the Rogue very much. There was just a couple of things that they did identically to the Druid and to the Rogue in terms of healing and sustain, that they made it, basically, it's not a 100% guarantee when you do crits. Now it's a 75% lucky hit, so it'll be a little noticeable, probably in higher Nightmare Dungeon tiers, but that's only if you care about that sort of thing. So the Rogue is in a great spot. The Rogue looks great. If you liked playing the Rogue and you want to play the Rogue again, you're going to have a grand old time. Yeah. So I feel like the winners of this patch, for the most part, are the Druid and the Rogue. The rest, I mean, yeah, the Necromancer arguably a little bit, but for the most part, it's those two. I mean, and that's without me really like examining in depth what the seasonal theme adds, because what I don't like about that perspective is this concept of borrowed power, where they're giving us this power in a season that's going to be taken away afterwards. And yes, granted, there's going to be another season and we'll get another power, right, of some sort, right? I'm just really not a fan of hurting base class playability and fun and enjoyment just to give it something else, right, in exchange. I don't think that's the right approach, you know. So now I want to talk about just some big sweeping changes they made. I'm only going to highlight some of the major ones that I feel as a casual affects me. So if you're also in that boat, then you know you can probably assume this is going to affect you as well. The biggest change, probably the biggest change, I feel, the most noticeable thing of everything in this patch, is that, and I'm having a hard time understanding the purpose behind this and the philosophy that Blizzard is going for, the devs. They nerfed defenses all around by 25 to 33%. So armor is less, you know, just defenses, damage reduction, all of that got nerfed. You know, so my Druid, I had to drop about 8 to 10 tiers to feel similarly. I was doing mid to high 50s very comfortably. Very comfortably. You know, I don't like to like die a lot, you know. That's not fun for me. So that's the range that I was doing with it. I probably could have done 10 tiers higher, but I would have been like really challenging myself, and I wasn't really into that, you know. So I dropped about 8 to 10 tiers, so into the mid to high 40s ish, and you know, I was trying it last night, and it was pretty much the same feeling as before. So it did make me feel squishier. Now that's obviously without the seasonal buffs and stuff. That's just the base class, but again, I don't really care for that. So that's probably the biggest thing that I noticed. They did nerf some other big offenses. They for the most part all around they brought up most offenses while bringing down the bigger ones. They brought down crit damage and vulnerable damage quite a bit, and core skill damage. So those are the three main things, if I recall, that they brought down, and because they wanted to really, their explanation was as well. And let's be real here, vulnerable damage was pretty much mandatory. Crit, anything multiplicative was really, really strong, and they just wanted us to use other things more that they brought into the game. But again, I don't know if that's the best solution. I don't, maybe it is. I don't really know. But maybe it, you know, maybe that should have been done before the game released. I just feel like more and more now, and I know I made a review of the game after playing it for about 70 hours, and I think I gave it an 8 out of 10 at the time. Unfortunately, the game's current state, I'd have to give it less. I don't really know exactly what I give it, but I don't think I can. I think it's hard for me at this stage right now, not knowing the direction the game is going. It doesn't feel great, not knowing, and there's going to be a stream on Friday to talk a little more about this, but just understanding, you know, the devs' philosophy and where they're taking the game. I'm feeling like if someone came to me now and asked me, hey, should I pick the game up? I would probably tell them to hold off for the time being. And I think that this game really needed another year. And I say that knowing that I'm still, in some ways, very happy it got released because I had a lot of fun so far. I've played it for a couple hundred hours, about 200 hours. And I had fun with that, but I could have waited. I could have waited more. And I know that's a difficult thing to do because of, you know, stakeholders and, you know, Activision, the board, and then pushing to get the game out and whatnot. They made all this money, so it's like, well, why would we have waited? We obviously made the right call. We made all this money, but, you know, there's going to be a big drop-off in players, I believe. I think there's going to be a huge drop-off, and I think it's because there's just too many things that just don't make sense. Stash space. everything is the same size? Why don't I have an armory? Why doesn't each of my characters have their own unique inventory as opposed to sharing with everybody? I'm not talking about the inventory like you walk around with. I'm talking about just your stash space, right? There's so many things that it just makes me feel like the devs don't really play this game all that much. And if they do, then that's a whole other conversation. Because they need to hire testers, and I mean, I would do it for them too. I'm saying they need to hire people to play this game that are really hardcore, or not even, I don't want to say hardcore, but just like real gamers who really play these games all the time and really enjoy them, who can give them feedback, give us PTRs again. Because I just can't understand how they can play a dungeon that has, and I played a few of the new dungeons, Nightmare Dungeons last night, and there was one in particular that had so many doors everywhere. There was just doors to like every other room had a door, and it took a couple of seconds for it to go down. And then after I went through this teleporter, and then I had to go and kill a shrine, and then I had to walk all the way back to the teleporter, and then teleport back, and then go to these other parts and go through more doors, and my goodness, it took forever. How is that interesting and fun and engaging? And they boast 150 dungeons, yet I mean, I don't know what percentage of them they feel the same, or they have the same bosses at the end. So there's just there's so many questionable decisions that they made, and then they made the game open world, which is interesting, but at the same time they sacrificed a lot. There's certainly a lot of questions to be had about the level scaling and what it means for players and how you feel when you're playing the game, right? And they're trying to remedy that, to be clear. They're trying to. In World Tier 3 and 4, there's a certain point where I think at level 56, monsters start to trail behind you in World Tier 3 until they're 5 levels below you, and then they start to scale up again, all the way until 70, and then when you get to World Tier 4, the same thing happens at 75, and then starting at 76, they trail behind you, and then all the way, so when you're 100, they're 95. So they're trying to, that's their, seems to be their solution for now, for the time being. But that, I'm not sure if that's the best way to handle that. I think they made their bed. They made this game open world. They want me to be able to play with my friend. If I'm 50 and he's 20, they want me to be able to play with him. And I get that. But they made a sacrifice for that as well, because now it's just not going to feel as good. I'm not going to feel, from level 50 to 51, I'm not going to feel this huge increase in power. It's going to feel very similar the whole way through, and especially if it's not challenging enough for me. Now, this isn't the most important thing for me in the world, but a lot of people, the Ackman made a huge video, got a lot of traction, a lot of people reacting, and I saw it, and I agreed with many things he said, just because it offered me a different perspective, not quite with everything, but with many things he said. And he talked about challenge. It's not something that I value very, very highly, although I did say that I would like some things to be a little harder. I'd like the higher difficulties to be a little bit harder, and I just didn't feel like they were. And one of the things I said was, let's make Hell Tides more interesting. Let's make them 5 levels higher above you at World Tier 3 and 10 at World Tier 4. They made them 3 levels higher now, which is, I guess that's a very safe pick. They're step in the right direction, but I still don't think it's going to be that challenging at really high levels. But I don't know. We'll see how it feels leveling up, But the last thing I wanted to mention before I tell you about what I'm going to do is they did make some changes to experience. It's going to be a little bit slower to level when you're leveling, like during the leveling process, the initial leveling process, and then power leveling is going to be harder to do. It's not going to be as quick, So they want people to play together. It seems like they don't want people power leveling. I'm sure they're going to talk about that more on Friday, but I don't know. Again, I don't know if that was the best decision. I'm not going to know until I see how it feels, but the numbers are pretty big. So, for example, if you fought a monster 3 levels higher than you, you'd be getting 25% bonus EXP from them, in addition to whatever EXP the monster gives, right? Now it's 15%. That's pretty substantial. 10% less, right? And on top of that, you're going to be getting a lot less from monsters in between. When the monster level difference between you and the monster, there's a cap now of 10. So if I'm level 1 and my friend who's level 100 kills a level 100 monster, I'm only going to get EXP bonuses as if that monster was level 11. Again, that's if I understand it correctly. It's a huge nerf to EXP. Huge, huge. So there's that. Okay. So I want to end by just telling you how I'm handling this moving forward. As a casual gamer, right, and as someone who does enjoy playing the game and who has fun, my focus is always playing games that are enjoyable and doing something that's fun. So if this game wasn't fun, I wouldn't have leveled to 100. Now, do I think I'm going to do that again? Probably not. I'm going to play the season. I'm going to enjoy the leveling process, and as much as I do, right? And I'll play the seasonal theme. I'll try it out, and as long as I'm having fun, I'll play. If I only play for 2 weeks or a week or 3 weeks or who knows however long, then I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to stress about it because there's lots of other games I want to play. There's lots of other things to enjoy. Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out, and that's probably my most highly anticipated game of the year besides this one. And either way, I'm looking forward to that. So I'm not too distraught about it. I think it's going to take some time for this game to get to a space where I can feel really good about its future. It's just not there right now. I hope it does. I hope it doesn't turn into another D3 situation for me. But, it might. And if it does, then, then it does. So be it. I'll be sad about it. I won't be happy, but there's lots of other great games out there, so I'm not really super concerned about it in that respect. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's give this season a try, and there may be some seasons I bow out of, just like I did of D3, and if it is, then so be it. But anyways, that's how I'm handling it. That's what I'm doing. I encourage you to think for yourself and decide for yourself what you want to do. If you don't want to play it, then that's fine. Let's hope that Blizzard can take our feedback over the last few years that we've been giving and continue to run with that and make something of it, and make this game better. Because we got a better start than we had with D3, but I don't want to settle for that. I don't want to settle for, we got a better start. Because D3 was a shit show to start. It really was. So, let's see what happens. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, click those buttons, leave a comment. Let me know what you're doing for Season 1, what class you're playing, if you're going to play or not. And I'll see you in hell. All right. Laters. Have a good one. Bye-bye.